Fanaticism revealed, war on the ground with Aasia storm. Coming up in
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
for
much
being here with me
for being
today.
here with me today.
I never start
I never
this
start
show
the
without
show
giving God the
without giving
glory.
God.
Father, thank you so
Father,
much
thank you
for all that you're
for
doing
all
in this world as you're healing
as
and
you're
drawing
healing and
people
drawing
out from
people
everywhere to make
everywhere
change.
to make change.
Start us tonight,
God,
Father. Thank you for
Father,
this
thank
time.
you for this time.
Well, hello there again. I'm
Again,
Aasia
I'm
Storm,
Aasia
and
Storm,
this is
and
Storm
this is Storm
Broadcasting Networks.
Broadcasting Networks.
We are the voice
We are the
of the voiceless.
voiceless.
We are the
We
mouthpiece
are the
of the
mouth.
voiceless. We are here to
We are
bring
here to
sound
bring sound
that's so needed all over the world.
all over the
This
world.
show
This
will
show
reach the
will reach
farthest
the farthest
corners of the world
corner.
to make sure that
Make
we
sure
don't
that
leave
we don't leave
anyone behind.
anyone behind.
No man left
No
behind.
man
No
left
woman
behind.
left
No
behind.
woman
No
left behind.
child left behind.
Child left behind.
Thank you so much for
Thank you
being
so
here.
much for being here.
What we will
What
produce,
we will produce, what we will
is a movement.
is a movement.
That's what our world
That's what
needs, a movement.
needs a
A
movement.
movement that
A
cares,
movement that
that's
cares,
passionate, that's strong,
passionate, that's
that's
strong,
vigorous.
that's vigorous.
We are creating
We
and
are
building that
creating and
movement.
building that movement.
And I'm so
And
proud that you're here to listen and learn with us. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that.
your
Thank
heart.
you for your heart.
I want to introduce
I want
to
to
you
introduce to you
our panelists.
panelists.
Our panelists.
Uh,
They are amazing
They are
women
amazing women
from all over
from all over
who have fought
who have fought
mighty battles,
mighty battles,
and who are here to
and who are
unite,
here
to
to
fight
unite, to fight,
battles that will make a difference.
make a difference.
As they introduce
As they
themselves to
introduce
you,
themselves to
I ask you to give them your
you to
heart.
give them your heart.
Give them your ear.
Give them your ear.
Because this is our time
Because
to
this is
speak
our
out
time to speak out
and to make
and
whispers
to make
become
whispers
a war.
become a war.
Africa has been a hotbed of conflict for the last century. As the colonial regimes of the Old World withered, the shadow of the Cold War enveloped the continent. Vast natural resources were discovered and weapons proliferated, providing the means for idealists and renegades to take power for themselves. This is Untangling Africa, and in this episode, we're taking a look at the civil war in Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone gained independence from Britain in 1961 and, until his death in 1964, was led by the democratically elected Prime Minister Sir Milton Margai. Rich in diamonds, fish, coca and minerals, Sierra Leone had large public coffers and strong institutions, but all it took was one man to bring it down. In 1968, Siaka Stevens was elected Prime Minister of Sierra Leone. He'd spent a lot of time since Sierra Leone's independence fanning the flames of ethnic conflict in the country's remote northern and eastern fringes. Riding on a ripple as opposed to a wave of populism, Stevens quickly set about destroying the democracy that elected him. He emptied the treasury to pay for small projects that benefited his close allies. He undermined and stripped away parliamentary powers. And he had political opponents exiled or executed by a corrupt judiciary. Public confidence in state institutions evaporated, and Stevens' reign came to be known as the 17-year Plague of Locusts. With the treasury empty, government officials looted and sold public property to pay their bills. Teachers in the publicly funded education system were forced to find other jobs, and the students were turned out onto the streets. Gang violence rose, and those with means left the capital, Freetown, for safety overseas. These people represented the country's professional classes, the doctors, lawyers, and engineers whose skills were difficult to replace. While Sierra Leone crumbled, its neighbor Liberia was involved in a bloody civil war. Weapons flowed into Liberia from other parts of Africa and the ex-Soviet republics. On the Sierra Leonean border, 80,000 refugees attempted to escape the violence. They were mostly children and were in desperate need of food, shelter, and medical care. In the regional and most disaffected areas, a rebel group called the Revolutionary United Front rose to challenge the government for control over the country. They initially enjoyed support from Sierra Leoneans desperate for change until word of their atrocities spread. Far from being a grassroots organization, the RUF formed in Liberia from brutalized soldiers serving the convicted war criminal Charles Taylor. In 1991, they recruited child soldiers en masse from border refugee camps, promising the kids food and medicine in exchange for blood. The unwilling were given a choice: join or die. The RUF rampaged through outlying Sierra Leone. Loot kept the men loyal, and they used violence to keep the child soldiers in line. In response, the Sierra Leone Army, or SLA, tried to hunt the RUF down. But corrupt officers withheld money and food from their men, and the government soldiers went on countryside looting sprees too. With both sides massacring civilians without cause, people could no longer tell the difference between the RUF and the SLA, who were supposed to be protecting them. They called the men Sobels, soldiers by day, rebels by night. A third faction then entered the fray. Named the Kamajors after a traditional group of expert hunters, these men were essentially a patriot militia. They guarded villages against both the SLA and RUF, though they were also involved with criminals. Many Kamajor militiamen came from street gangs, but as far as the civilians were concerned, they were better than the rebels and the army. By 1992, the RUF controlled 2/3 of Sierra Leone. The SLA had been totally ineffective in destroying the rebels and were now fighting the Kamajors too. As if that wasn't enough, there were problems back in Freetown. In 1991, the RUF captured transport hubs in the infrastructure poor south and east of Sierra Leone. The government-run diamond mines were cut off and the regime's main source of wealth went with it. Money to pay both the SLA and the public service ran out. So, in April 1992, a group of SLA officers overthrew the government, establishing the National Provisional Ruling Council, or NPRC. They promised to bring peace to Sierra Leone, but peace had a high price. With considerable assistance from an ECOMOG contingent comprising Nigerian regulars, the NPRC pushed the RUF back to the border. By 1993, it looked like the war might be over, but the corrupt NPRC had neglected the SLA soldiers on the ground. Having gone without pay and food for weeks, large contingents of the SLA went renegade, joining the RUF. Bolstered by soldiers and supplies, the RUF renewed their offensive on Freetown. This suited the NPRC just fine, because the longer the war went, the longer they stayed in power. However, the strategy only works if you're on the winning side, and by 1995, with the rebels 20 kilometers from Freetown, the NPRC was in trouble. What they needed was an executive outcome. In March 1995, South African PMC executive outcomes arrived in Sierra Leone. For a hefty fee of 1.8 million per month, the contractors promised to retake Sierra Leone's diamond mines, destroy the RUF headquarters, and return the country to government control. And they could do it, because Executive Outcomes was not your average consultancy. When apartheid ended in South Africa, one of the compromises made between the incumbent National Party and the popular ANC was the disbanding of certain Special Forces units. 3-2 Battalion, comprising battle-hardened black and white soldiers from the South African Border War, was disbanded, and its members were sent to other units. Following the restructuring of the SADF by the ANC, many experienced soldiers faced bankruptcy. Offering the men lucrative contracts for the same job they'd always done, Executive Outcomes purchased a fully formed and battle-hardened fighting force. They had helicopters, tanks, and armored vehicles from the former Soviet Union and experienced soldiers to crew them. They also recruited military doctors, engineers, and specialists, meaning their force was entirely self-contained. Against a well-trained, well-equipped, and highly experienced force like this, the RUF in Sierra Leone stood no chance. In the first 10 days of fighting, Executive Outcomes pushed the RUF back 60 miles into the interior. 7 months later, they had retaken the diamond mines and destroyed the RUF's main operational base. They were supported by loyalist SLA units and loyalist Kamajors. Broken, the RUF signed the Abidjan Peace Accords in Côte d'Ivoire on November 30th, 1996. While Executive Outcomes mopped up, Sierra Leone held free and fair elections. The loyalist Kamajors were reorganized into the Civil Defense Forces, or CDFs, and massively expanded. It seemed like the war might be over, but then the UN got involved. The peace accords demanded Executive Outcomes leave within 5 weeks of the arrival of a neutral peacekeeping force. But this wasn't soon enough for the European bureaucrats. As the Sierra Leonean economy was still in shambles, the International Monetary Fund was paying Executive Outcomes' exorbitant monthly rate. Now the job was done, they wanted mercenaries off their books as soon as possible. In January 1997, before the peacekeepers arrived, Executive Outcomes was ordered to leave. Seizing the opportunity, the RUF renewed its fight against government forces, where they got some unexpected help. A faction of SLA officers believed the army was at risk of being eclipsed by the popular and fast-growing CDFs. To remedy this, they freed roughly 600 renegade SLA soldiers from prison in Freetown and proclaimed a new party, the Armed Forces Revolutionary Council, or AFRC, as Sierra Leone's government. The ill-equipped and village-based CDFs couldn't hold Freetown, and it was overrun by the AFRC and RUF, who had joined forces. The city was sacked and the president escaped by helicopter. Mass killings, rape, and looting ensued. The rebels called this Operation No Living Thing and Operation Pay Yourself. It was carnage. The world condemned the violence, but only ECOMOG was willing to step in and actually do anything about it. In 1998, ECOMOG's crack troops, the battle-hardened Nigerians, assaulted Freetown and liberated it from AFRC control. They did this largely without air and armored support, overcoming entrenched positions with not much more than courage and grit. With ECOMOG security present in the city, the president returned. He struck a peace deal with the RUF in July 1999. Called the Lome Peace Accords, the agreement gave the head of the RUF, Fode Sanko, the vice presidency and control over the diamond mines. In return, the RUF was meant to disarm and stop murdering people. Having finally organized the paperwork, the UN dispatched a force to oversee the disarmament process and monitor the peace. It was named UNAMSIL and effectively replaced the critically under-resourced ECOMOG force. But unlike ECOMOG, who defeated the rebels and took Freetown with just 700 men and no support, the lavishly supplied UNAMSIL worked hard to avoid contact with the enemy. In fact, they were consistently humiliated by enemy forces. In one instance, 500 UNAMSIL peacekeepers were captured by the RUF, who then advanced on Freetown with captured UN weapons and armored vehicles. This incident shook UNAMSIL's confidence and they further avoided the RUF from then on. However, some of the peacekeeper hostages were from India and the Indian army refused to abandon their men. They launched Operation Kukri to break them out. 2 companies of the 5/8 Gorkha Rifles Infantry Battalion were holed up in Kailahun, surrounded by roughly 5,000 RUF fighters, many of whom were armed with captured UN weapons. In July 2003, 2 para-special forces parachuted into Kailahun via British C-130 Hercules and Chinook Helos. The Indian paras destroyed UN supply caches to deny them to the rebels and organized the Gorkha breakout. Taking the RUF by surprise, the Indians smashed through their positions and evacuated every single one of their trapped soldiers. Only 1 Indian was killed, while the special forces inflicted hundreds of casualties on the RUF. Operation Kukri significantly boosted UNAMSIL morale and demonstrated that swift, decisive action could crush the rebels. The Brits jumped on board too, launching Operation Palliser. Soldiers of the paratroop regiment secured the airport and the RAF began evacuating UNAMSIL staff. British forces also launched small-scale raids and rescue operations across the country, knocking out key RUF leaders and recovering UNAMSIL hostages. The British commander, Brigadier Richards, expanded their mission from rescuing key people to rescuing the whole of UNAMSIL. With the British and Indian Special Forces working together, not to mention a few rough and ready Nigerian units, UNAMSIL was resuscitated. Over the border, the government of Guinea had decided enough was enough and began bombing the crap out of rebel strongholds. The flow of conflict diamonds to Liberia slowed, and with it went the RUF's funding. The RUF was out of money, facing the British and Indian Special Forces, getting clobbered by Nigerian units who were very much done with the whole thing and had bombs falling on their heads daily. With no prospect of escape, the RUF surrendered. Meanwhile, the opportunistic AFRC changed sides again, going back to the loyalist SLA. The RUF were disarmed alongside the CDFs and UNAMSIL monitored the situation. Now that no one had any weapons and everyone had given up on fighting, their job was much easier. On January 18, 2002, the president announced the war was over, but it cast a long shadow. An entire generation of children was denied an education and brutalized by the war. Roughly half of the RUF's strength and a quarter of the government forces consisted of child soldiers, and the mental scars of the conflict still run deep. The RUF's leaders...
Greetings, everyone. Aasia, I think we should start all over. I think the problem has been solved. Can you hear me?
Okay, ladies,
I
you
think
can
we are
just
ready
hear
to start
me.
all over.
Actually, why I'm helping Asia to get her sound, I'd like Mrs. Scarlett to start all over again. Her sound has been resolved. I will be bringing her to start all over again while I rectify the issue for Miss Asia. Thank you.
Good evening, and welcome to Fanaticism Revealed. We will start off in prayer, and then we will introduce ourselves. We will start with the introduction with Dr. Patience Abayadu after I've done the prayer. Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you for this time as we gather together in unity and a place of agreement to seek your directions and instructions. We declare your word, Jeremiah 22:3. This is what the Lord says. Do what is just and right. Rescue from the hand of the oppressor, the one who has been robbed. Do no wrong or violence to the foreigner, the fatherless, or the widow, and do not shed innocent blood in this place. Lord, show us how we can do that. Show us what we need to do as we bow before you tonight, as we humble ourselves tonight to hear your directions and instructions. It is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. At this time, we'll have Dr. Patience Abayadu to introduce herself.
Greetings, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here again on Fanaticism Revealed. My name once more is Dr. Patience Abayadu, and I was born and raised in what was then West Cameroon, where I grew up and attended both elementary and secondary school. After a brief stint at the University of Yaoundé, I moved to Los Angeles to pursue first a bachelor's degree in biology and then later on a doctor's degree in pharmacy. And the reason I came to the United States at that time was to join my husband, who was a doctoral student at UCLA. So I was privileged to have both my university educations in two fantastic universities in California. I have been practicing as a pharmacist for over 30 years and also participated in quite a few community-based projects to make my community a better place. The war that befell Southern Cameroons, I say that we have been living through an unjust war. And the unjust war came as a result of an unjust peace and has made us Southern Cameroonians determined to free our people. And because of that, I found myself working in the interim government at different levels. I started first in the department of, in the Restoration Council, the then Restoration Council. I then moved into the Ethics Commission, and I'm presently the Secretary of State for Women's Department of the interim government. But my passion really is to do philanthropic work, to do activism, which is what we are doing here today. to make sure that the word gets out of what is happening in southern Cameroon. War on the ground, which is what we are experiencing, is something that we need the world to know about. And it's really my pleasure to share this stage today with my sisters to let the world know what is going on. Thank you for having me here, Khaled.
Dr. Winnie Labati, introduce yourself, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Colette, and thank you, Miss Asia, for creating this platform that we are here today. I just want to introduce myself. I am Winnie Lubadi. I also was born and raised in southern Cameroon. Then we called it West Cameroon, like Patience stated, not knowing that our true heritage had really been suppressed. And we went to school. I also went to school. At some point, I crisscrossed with Patience for about a year somewhere in in the secondary school, and then of course I did high school, and then eventually went to the Ngwakele, the popular Ngwakele. That was not the best place for English-speaking science students. Um, Very few did thrive and survive there with all the hard knocks of the language barrier. And then I eventually just gave up, wanted to go to Nigeria to study, but ended up um, finding my way to the US with my husband, and eventually became mom of of kids. And I'm also a pharmacist. I have a doctor of pharmacy degree as well, just like Dr. Patience has. And I've been, at core, I'm a person that really wants to see that those who are less fortunate get to better themselves by not getting a hand me down, but getting a hand up approach of helping the suffering. And I got into this whole issue of the war when it started. It wasn't just a, it didn't start as a war, even though it had been a war. Believe you, I was pregnant when there was a, what they call lockdowns in Bamenda in the 90s. I was pregnant and experienced that trekking as a pregnant woman, so I can understand the plight of the women when they are in the bushes pregnant and having children. I never had my own babies in the bushes. If it were, I probably would have been dead. But I understand your plight to a certain extent because of some of the times I had to trek. One day I had to trek several miles from Akum all the way down to town, pregnant, heavily pregnant. But thank you for bringing us here so we can really tell and expose the atrocities in Amazonia.
Thank you, Dr. Labati. Ma Emma Endley, we would like for you to introduce yourself.
Um, Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, wherever you are in the world. The times are so different. Ladies and gentlemen, friends and foes of Amazonia, I'm happy to be here tonight to be taking part in this third part of the series, War on the Ground. My name is Emma Endele, and I also was born in Cameroon, in Kumba, in Kumba, which is Meme division, and I went to school in Boya Fako, and secondary school was done in Manfe Manu. My father was the postmaster general, and so he traveled from city to city to start the post office. So we lived everywhere that you can think of. I went to school in Victoria, went to school in Tico, and my siblings went to school in Bamenda, Mancon, everywhere. So I am a real child of Amazonia. I left for the US to study after my high school, which was College of Arts and Science in Bambili. I went with A levels to the US, where I did my first degree in English and French, and my second degree was in journalism. I worked in Radio Buea for a few years, and then I moved to Nigeria, and now I move back and forth actually, but I retired in Nigeria as a journalist and moved to the US, where I am currently a nurse. My passion for this struggle in Amazonia resulted from my innate hunger to care for people, and the what actually drew me into this genocidal war was the fact that I saw how my people were being slaughtered, and the humanitarian crisis resulting from this. That is what got me interested in this war for the last 3-4 years actually. I describe myself as a mother and a citizen of the world. I never can stand injustice in any part of the world, in any part of the world. And the outcry and the outcry for help from my people moves me in this struggle. So that's what I can say about myself. I'm glad to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you all for introducing yourself. And I'm Carlette Boyd, born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm also an LPN. I've worked for over 20 years in nursing and in hospice care. I'm the mother of four, two sons, two daughters, and 7 grandchildren. My passion is for writing and for music and poetry. And I would like to be able to share that to those that need encouragement, need uplifting, need just inspiration, and to know that there is peace in the storm. There is peace in what you're going through when you know who God is. And having that, I would like to start that as well as teach it to my children and my grandchildren so that there is a foundation of hope and peace and love and joy to stand on in these times that we're going through. Now we will start with our questions for tonight. I would like to start with Miss Imba Underlay, and I will start with, what can ordinary people like myself do to help ordinary citizens of the world, and especially Amazonians, to give short-term and long-term assistance?
Okay. My people, my interest has always been, as I said, humanitarian. And at this point, we have millions of displaced persons from Amazonia. And even before this time, due to the fact that there were no jobs in Cameroon, and there were um, frustrated youths who graduated from university, from high school, and could never find employment. These youths now took it upon themselves to try to travel all over the world to look for better opportunities for them to help themselves and their families. A lot of them graduated from universities, could not find jobs. They could only find jobs like driving taxis or using motorcycles for transportation, and some of them went into farming. So when they get opportunities to travel abroad, most of them took these opportunities. A lot of them died in the Red Sea trying to cross. A lot of them died in the deserts trying to cross to North Africa and to Europe. Now, as an ordinary citizen, what I am hoping that we can do is to bring into the light, to tell the world what is happening in Amazonia, which is the same as what is happening in a lot of Africa, other states in Africa. You know, the unemployment, the suffering of our people, and the loss of lives from just trying to get a better living condition for our youths and their families. Now, as an ordinary citizen, as I said, what I would like to see is that the whole world should know what is happening. We learn of these same kind of situations in the rest of the world. It is highlighted in the media, but this genocidal war that has been going on in Amazonia has gone on for 5 to 6 years, and very few people know about it. We need to talk about it. We need to bring it to the world. We need to have people know and see what is happening. So as a citizen of the world, we cannot live in a cocoon, in a balloon, as the LRC government would like us to do. A lot has been happening, and a lot has been kept in the dark deliberately. For example, internet was shut down for months, and actually it was the protest and demand for this happened because people on the outside could not get in touch with their people inside of Cameroon, inside of Amazonia, because the internet was shut down. All connections to the rest of the world was shut down. Sometimes, a lot of times, there's no electricity, so people cannot charge their phones. They cannot watch the news of what is happening in the rest of the world. And to get this information out is very important, because it is the people, it is the common people, the masses, that will hold their governments responsible. For example, what France does with La République du Cameroon to oppress the Amazonians is happening because of the leaders are in cahoots. The French people might not know this. We need to let the ordinary people know what their governments are doing. For example, last year, if the masses did not rise when the black people were being murdered by the police, the changes that took place would not have happened. So that is what I would say, that we, the common people, we, the ordinary people, we mothers and families need to speak up. That we can do, and make the government, and hold our government responsible and accountable for what is happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Andele. Thank you for that. And we sure do hope that ordinary people and people everywhere are listening and taking notes so that they can do something to assist in these efforts. Dr. Patience.
Yes.
I took some time to read about the conflict or war in Amazonia and found out that you have about 3 or 4 governments in your Amazonia. All want one thing. Why don't you unite and work together so the international community will take you seriously?
That's an interesting question. Thank you, Ms. Kat, for that question. As a matter of question, because at one point I was just someone looking on to what was going on. In 2000 17. It was called the Governing Council. Los Angeles, California, that were there. The second of when it, at that time there were Eba, Kangwa, Bo Herbert. Those were the prominent.
Yes.
So that they all unite and work together. Same thing. But neither here nor there. He said, well, you can do, you invite people, they don't want to join you, you can do only what you can do. Full-fledged because of going on a strike and to Cameroon demands to wage war. This waging of war, the southern countries, which started the union workers and all the like, work together to do things that benefit Southern Cameroonians or the people from the former British Southern Cameroons. And Southern Cameroonians Union Front. After that, the leader, who was a leader at one point, Tetsuko Ayuktabe, the leader of the governing council, govern ourselves before in. So we would just
Dr. Patience,
first president. Yes, my dear.
your sound is breaking.
Oh, my sound is breaking?
Yes, your sound is breaking, dear. And no worries, we will iron out all of our technical things. But yes, can you check that? Maybe reposition your phone. I know you're
how
traveling.
Is this now? How is this? It's okay now? All right, let me just probably sit in one position and not move around.
Let me ask the technician. Okay.
So the Tetsuko Ayuktabe was the first president of the interim government. Now, this is a challenge. Your question as to why you've seen that there are more than 3 or 4 governments. There is only one interim government.
Now, just in case, excuse me.
Thank you. There is only one interim government because it started with Tetsuko Ayuktabe. He was arrested, and after he was arrested, the people put into his position Dr. Samuel Ikome Sako, who is now the current president. Now, La Republique is very smart. La Republique has the wisdom to play the divide and conquer game. And so they've been able to infiltrate us. They've been able to buy people because that's their culture of bribery and corruption. They've been able to buy some of our people that were not really viable, vibrant Amazonians. They were not really true Amazonians. And they've distorted what we've been fighting for, to pull these people to their side to create another government. But we know that we have structures in place that are called LGAs and counties, where by working through your LGAs and counties, you build Ambazonia. And there are other leaders that are not part of these LGAs and counties. People like the Cho Ayabas, the Bohabers, the Akwanga, pardon me. And you ask them yourself, are they really people who want us to be free? Because if they are not selfish, if they are not greedy, then they will find they'll find the importance, the sense, the cleverness of what we have as LGAs and counties and work within that structure. Because if you're good at what you're doing, the people will recognize you and make you their leader. So to answer your question, to make it a little bit brief, right now, the international committee knows who are the people that are doing the work. They know who the actors are. You know, we have actors and we have stakeholders. The actors are those who are defending the ground. When we say the ground, we call it right now home front. They listen to those who raise funds to give them the materials to defend home front. And those are the actors. Everybody else who may have a government that is not part of the system is just there as a distraction. And with time, they can either get on board and join the interim government and work together, or stay on the side knowing that we will still go ahead. By the way, briefly in the Bible, remember the story of Gideon, where God had just a few people to go fight the battle, that they had to go, she needed just 400 men, if I remember, and they had to march. That God didn't need a lot of people to go march and give the battle that the Israelites won against the enemy. So it's the same thing with the struggle for Ambazonia. We have just a few people that are dedicated, they are hardworking, they put their money where their mouth is, and that's all it takes. And the international community will realize that we are serious, and we will work through the Swiss-led process, which is a negotiation platform to free Ambazonia. I hope I answered that question well for you. Thank you so much.
Yes, you did. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much. And we do pray that the Gideon rises and is recognized so that he can get on board. Everyone can get on board to do what's needed there. Our next question is for Dr. Labate. Winnie, my heart breaks to hear that a toddler is in critical condition in a hospital. How can we be sure this hospital will not be the next hospital burned down by the military or the Republic du Cameroon? Too many lives have been wasted. This has to stop. We are in this 21st century, not the 17th or 18th. Besides advocacy, is there any message for the U.S. government or any other government that you deem relevant that can cause intervention to stop the genocide in Amazonia?
Miss Colette and our audience, I think that was a real powerful question. Just a brief background. What happened on the 8th of June in a county or an area we call Manfi, La République military actually went into a district hospital. At the time, sources on the ground said there were 47 patients in the hospital. And what they did was they took mattresses soaked in gas and lit them. So the whole hospital burned down. Thank God, most of those patients were evacuated. And unfortunately, in that divide and rule that Dr. Patience was just talking about, some of the boys that the government of La République du Cameroon has been able to pull and ask them to lay down their defensive weapons and go to a center that they call DDR, or Disarmament Center and Rehabilitation. They use those boys now against the population so they can get the population to turn against those that are standing to protect them and claiming that they are the ones. But they were caught. They were caught red-handed, even as they made videos of their acts speaking in French. So it became apparent who the perpetrators. But linking that to another, there was a second massacre that happened in a city or a village in another county called Menchum, in a village called Fungo. So a mom with an 18-month-old they were shot to death. Here's the story behind that. A military officer was kind of strayed away from his bodies. They say he had an affair or went with a lady for his own pastime, and his colleagues could not find him, so they rained on a village and just started slaughtering people indefinitely. So some of these kids, 2 kids were shot, and 1 is in the hospital, as we were told. So how can we stop these kinds of killing? Really, Miss Colette, I cannot say that we can really stop it. The only way we can stop it is truly to stop war, because this is crime against humanity. It's against even the Geneva Convention for war, for people to be burning hospital, schools, and even church or places of worship. But we can do one thing. This genocide, unfortunately, is least publicized. We can together, and the audience who are watching us, while we may hear about what is going on in Ukraine, it doesn't even stop the war crimes to be committed. But what we know is that if we together with one voice, many of us send shock waves into the international community, then we will get this the genocide will get the notice that it deserves, and then more people will speak. But we need to speak to the US government. We thank them. They've had some resolutions in the House as well as in the Senate, as well as they've put some sanctions. They did put some sanctions in the past, but it did not go far enough to deter La République de Cameroon from continuing its genocidal act. I know that the US government is in a tight place. France is really the one behind this war because they want the natural resources of Amazonia. So La République and those that have been purported and put and crowned in that leadership of the Biya regime are actually being used as tools. As long as they keep them happy, let them have whatever they want, and the resources are being sapped, they can go on. It's sad because America finds it difficult to separate its relationship with France over this matter. France is the actual masterminder behind this, and we need to let the U.S. government know that we all know it. It's not something that is hidden. It's in the open, and President Macron knows that he is behind all this, and he needs to stop this. The lives of Africans are equally as important as the life of every French citizen. We carry the same blood in the human race in our veins. This has to stop.
Thank you. At this time, Ms.
Asia, can I say something, Miss Khaled?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I add something? Okay, yes. You know,
Yes.
another thing, it does not take a rocket scientist to understand what is going on in this. You know, I don't know how La République du Cameroon gets away with its lies. All the killings are happening in Amazonia. You know, all the burnings, all the scorch policy is happening in Amazonia. Why can't we stop this? I don't know no matter what you say, La République comes out and says they are defending the people. They are trying to make the country more secure. Why don't they go back and make La République secure? All they are doing is killing Ambazonians. There is no discussion here. It is a genocide. They are killing Ambazonians. Why can't the world just do what the right thing is? The United Nations should put a peacekeeping force there. Stop the war. Stop the killing of my people. My people are being killed every day. What are we discussing? What is there to discuss? It's just very, 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 very frustrating. There is nothing that is not very clear. Everybody, even a child, knows what is happening. La République, backed by France, is killing Amazonians because of their resources. Period. How do you stop it? The world knows how to stop this. United Nations knows how to stop this. I just had to add that, Asia. Thank you.
Yes, yes, thank you so much, Miss Underlay. Thank you so much. Yes, and carry on, Miss Boyd.
Yes, thank you for those answers. This is for Miss Labate. Winnie, just in the last 2 weeks, we have heard of more atrocities, more atrocious acts and mayhem perpetrated against the people of Amazonia. Tell us more about these acts and what can our audience viewers do to announce the alarms to the powers that be? What can our audience do to be a part of the solution?
Thank you, audience. As you listen to me, I think I just gave a brief background of that, the massacre and the burning of the hospital. But I think the part that will be important now for us is, what can we do? What can you do? Watching on your handheld device, sitting in your living room, getting up, or sitting at the park with your kids and watching while they play. Has it ever occurred to you that maybe you are in diaspora and you can take your kids to a playground and they play, but the kids in Amazonia cannot? Did it ever occur to you that for 5 years counting, the children of Amazonia have not been to school? Did it ever occur to you that even the hospitals in Amazonia are not considered safe, whether for just even for civilians or even those who have been shot? Because the La République will go into the hospital and pull people out of sick beds, or those who have been shot with wounds, and take them to prisons, and some of them are just wiped out, eliminated, and killed. There is a place for everyone and anyone who has a heart to see justice and peace reign in that part of the world and in the world at large. There is something you can do. What can you do? I would say, join a movement that decries this genocide. Don't stay at the corner and do nothing. Support. There is an organization which is part of the United Nations, and they deal with refugees and humanitarian projects around the world where they have problems. They call UNHCR, and they are the ones that are supposedly to be handling the refugees that have fled Amazonia into Nigeria and other parts of the world. Are they very effective? To a certain percentage, I would say maybe 20 to 30%. But are they really taking care of the refugees? Maybe not. Maybe those of us who are putting our monies to UNHCR, we should start telling them, name the project that you want that money to go to. Don't just give it because somebody cried on CNN and you saw them say, oh, they showed you all the suffering kids in the world that are refugees. Say, I want this money to go to the refugees of Amazonia. Name you where, tell your money to work for you and to carry out some of the projects that your heart and compassion wants to do. So I would say together we can do some things. And some of this, they are internally displaced people scattered all over, even within La République du Cameroon and even within Amazonia, seeking shelter and fleeing the war. Where there are gunshots, they run to another part thinking it might be safe. But it's probably sometimes not very safe, because they get there and they find out that gunshots pop up the next day elsewhere. Believe it or not, some of the kids are already calling they are growing with all the gunshots around them, and they just call it popcorn because it's popping like popcorn, that sound. Can we imagine the psychological impact that these children are going to have? For those who can learn your skills, whether it's to counsel, comfort, pray, support, do that. But I will say there is something we can all do. We can all be an advocate. And how do we advocate? We can advocate by calling our senators, calling our congressmen, calling our local leaders and say, I heard about this war going on in La République du Cameroon, or in Cameroon, and genocide. What have you done as my representative? What have you done? What are you doing? What can we do? And we would like to see that you represent us to ensure that there's justice and peace, and genocide is stamped out of the world, and that it should be nowhere on the globe. Thank you. If you want me, I can talk some
Make
more,
a
because
difference.
ask your newspaper, ask your local newspaper, or even your local TV station, why have you not spoken about this genocide that is ongoing in Amazonia or Southern Cameroon? Why are you silent about it? Is it because you think there's no money, or it will not bring you any real publicity that will get you some finances? There are a lot of things we can do. The list is endless, but be an advocate.
Thank you again, Ms. Labate, for sharing that we all can be an advocate, and that there is something that we all can do, and we can work together to get it done. Thank you for that. Ms. Patience Abayadu, reflecting on the cause or causes of the Amazonia La République du Cameroun War, is there any victory in sight for either of the protagonists?
Thank you, Khaled, for that question. Reflecting on the causes and then thinking about whether there's victory in sight for either La République du Cameroun or the people of the former British Southern Cameroons. Can you hear me? I just need somebody to say yes or no.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. So the cause of the war, one has to go back into the history of the former British Southern Cameroons and think about how we got our so-called independence. You see, between 1953 and 1960, the people of the former British Southern Cameroons was a trust territory of the British, and were governing themselves. They had all the ingredients of a state. They had their own international boundaries. They had an assembly, the House of Chiefs. They had a constitution, and they had a premier, and other ingredients that you need to be a full state. And it's even known that at one point, they were the first country in West Africa to have a democratic change of leadership without any problems. So when African countries were gaining independence, the United Nations decided that African countries should get their independence. The people from the former British Southern Cameroons were also set aside to get their own independence. Unfortunately, and that is a story for another time, they were asked to get independence by joining either La République du Cameroun or the Republic of Nigeria. La République du Cameroun had already had its own independence on January 1st, 1960. And during Resolution 1608, they, in fact, voted against the people of the Southern Cameroons, former British Southern Cameroons, from getting their own independence. So you ask the question, why at that time, knowing that they were also a trust territory of the French, and we were a trust territory of the British, why, if they could have their own independence, why would they vote against their fellow brothers not to have independence? But as it would happen, the British just dumped us on the 1st of October, 1961, and just, in fact, they left us on the 30th of September, 1961, and on the 1st of October, La République took over us. And what we thought was going to be a federation where we were both states with equal authorities, equal powers, was not the case. But it's a long history from then. And I think at that time, our forefathers, our leaders, realized that we were in big SHIT. I'm sorry to use that word, because they had no authorities. They had no powers. They saw that Ahidjo and France, because France was behind everything, had simply recolonized the people of the former British Southern Cameroons. Now, fast forward to 58 years afterwards, to 2016, when the teachers and lawyers went on a strike. Why did they go on a strike? They did because, looking at everything that happened for the past 58 years, the assimilation, if you want to use that word, the marginalization, if you want to use that word, they realized that those from the former British Southern Cameroons were suffering. They were not held as equal as those from the French-speaking part. And we don't really like to use the words Anglophones, but for the matter of argument, let's say that we were Anglophones. We are Anglophones. The Anglophones were treated poorly. They didn't have opportunities to grow. All their infrastructure, all the corporations that they had were already taken away from them or dismantled, and there was no growth for their children. You had kids going to the universities doing very well, but there were no prospects for them. So what has happened after 2016, when the teachers and lawyers went on a strike to ask for basic amenities and were not granted, and rather a war became the result of what they asked for? That has opened the eyes, and we as Amazonians, we've gone and read that history that we did not know. So in essence, the genie is out of the bottle. The genie is out of the bottle. Because of that, we know our history now. We cannot go back. So there's no win in sight for either side. They will continue to kill Southern Cameroonians, but the truth is on our side. Mawini described some of the atrocities. Almost every single household has been affected, where you've lost somebody or you know somebody who has lost somebody. Those are souls that will never come back. Those are people that have died, our children, our sons, they have gone like that for no reason.
Yes.
Just because of that, there's no peace for La République. They have to solve this. They cannot win because we are a determined people. We are a determined people. When people are determined, there's no going back. So either La Republic goes to that table, which is the best way to solve problems, because diplomatically you have to go sit on the table and find out the best way to separate, because now we are talking about negotiating the terms of separations, because it's clear that based on our history, we cannot stay together as one country. Thank you so much for that question.
Thank you, Dr. Patience. Thank you that you are determined and that the group that's working with you are determined to see changes take place. Ms. Storm, I'd like to ask you a
Yes.
question. Why are you working so feverishly to do this work? What is it you hope to accomplish? How will your plan rescue people across the world?
Thank you, Ms. Boyd, for that question. For one reason, I work so feverishly. I cannot sleep, Miss Boyd. I cannot rest. I just can't. I can't. I can't take it. I can't take when innocent people are slaughtered. I just can't. My heart breaks every day, no matter how big my blessings are. I cannot live with the atrocities that are swimming all around my psyche everywhere. I need peace. I need it for my
Yes.
fellow men. I need it for mankind. I need it for innocent people. I need it for babies. One of the major reasons I work so feverishly, Miss Boyd, is because I'm in love with children. I think they're the most precious of precious beings in the universe. They're just so incredible. And I can't look at my beautiful great grandchildren and my grandchildren and be at peace when other mothers' children are being slaughtered many, many, many times right in their presence. I can't do it. And so that's one of the reasons. Can you give me part B of your question?
Yes. How will your plan rescue people across the world?
Like Miss Abiadu mentioned, and Miss Labauti and Miss Underlay and you, um, it's because numbers move mountains, people. They do. And it doesn't take much. It doesn't take much when a whole body of people are working at peace. Then each person's job is lessened in an incredible way, but it's amplified in an incredible way. It's time for us to understand that our food won't digest right. It won't get our bodies as healthy as they could be if we were giving and helping and supporting and protecting people who can't do it for themselves because people are slaughtering them. And this is the main reason that I believe it will work, that we can change this, we can make this stop. This is not a talk show for just talking. This is a talk show for doing. I believe in our doing something together, that we will do massive things to make change, that we will look up and people will be saved, people will be protected, people will be lifted up, people will feel so great because they know we care about them. You know what it feels like, viewers and people who will be viewing, you know what it feels like when you feel loved, when you feel cared about. You know what that feels like. People are laying in the bush by themselves, suffering gravely with nobody who's showing any care. I believe numbers will make the biggest difference in the world. Presidents listen to numbers. Emperors, everybody listen to numbers. The police, everybody listen to numbers. Everybody act because of numbers. So that's why, Miss Boyd, I believe this plan will work. Part 3, is there
Yes.
another part to the question?
There's another question if you'd like to answer at this time.
No, I'll wait and let someone else take the platform. Thank you, Ms. Boyd.
Okay, thank you.
Can you go to the next question, please? Are you there, Ms. Boyd? Or did she
Yes.
freeze?
No, I'm here. I'm going
Okay.
to the next question.
All right, thank you. I will be with you shortly. Thank you so much.
I would like to ask Ms. Underlay about the genocides and atrocities that have happened. One that we're familiar with was in Rwanda, and we would like to see, has any changes taken place since then? Has there been any more community awareness? And if not, how can there be community awareness? Because it was said at that time that this would not happen again, yet we are seeing it. So what can the community do to be more aware so that, as we said before, it will not happen, that it stops now?
Thank you, Ms. Boyd, for that question. Um, yes, when Rwanda happened, the world was really shocked that such a genocide was going on, and no, people did not know until hundreds of thousands of people had been killed. And they said it will not happen again. They will not stand by and see it happen again. Yes. But then 6 years later, it is, 6 years now, it has been happening in Amazonia, and the world either looked the other way or was not aware of what was happening. As I said during the last, I think the first discussion that we had, this war in Ukraine was a blessing in disguise. Not a blessing that people had to die, and not a blessing that a genocide was going on, because we saw it live. My prayer and my wish was that I wish what was happening in Amazonia since 2016 was also upfront in the media as what happened in Ukraine. But then it is a blessing in disguise, because a lot of people now know what is happening in Amazonia, because we have also said, yes, there is genocide going on in Ukraine, but there's genocide going on in other parts of the world. So people now have been saying, oh, really? Tell us more about it. And that is why a program like this, put together by Aasia, is a blessing to us. It's a blessing for Amazonia. Genocide, you can call it anything, but a genocide is a genocide.
Yes.
I keep going back to Black Lives Matter in the United States, and we saw what happened. We saw the action that happened after the young man who was killed, with the police putting their knee on his neck. All of a
Yes.
sudden, Amazonia felt as if La Republique had its knee on the neck of Amazonians. So as you said, Asia, numbers matter, because Black Americans and Africans and even white people who are for justice came out in their numbers and made the world realize that the killing of the Black men had been going on for years,
Yes.
and nothing was being done. Over and
Yes.
over again, the police were acquitted. They killed
Yes.
Black people and they were acquitted over and over and over
Yes.
again. But when the Black Lives Matter came out and said, enough is enough. You are not going to kill us anymore. Take your knee off our necks. Things
Yes.
began to happen. For the first time, the police were convicted for the crime they committed. So you see, crowds matter. The ordinary people matter. Their voice matters. You know, in this program, we have mentioned ways and things that you as an ordinary citizen can do to help people. You know, when it is time to donate to help the refugees, $10 makes a difference, $5 makes a difference. That is how you help the people of the world, because we are all part of the world. We are all God's creation. You know, it is hard to understand that human beings will just decide to kill another group of human beings for no reason at
Yes.
all, but what is
Yeah.
under the earth given to them by God. They did not choose to be born where they are. That is what they found, where they found themselves. So why should La République kill Ambazonians for what is underground? You know, it's just we, the people, have to speak up. We, the masses, have to come together. We, the masses, have to defend each other, to defend ourselves, to help those who do not have a voice. That is
Yes.
why we are the voice of the voiceless.
I would like to add something, Miss Underlay. A psychologist said something to me a number of days ago that was so profound. She gave the comparison of Fort Knox, and Fort Knox is you can't thieves can't get in there. The best of thieves can't get in there. They got a lockdown on it. But our children are just left vulnerable. Our innocent people are left vulnerable. If we put even one hundredth of protection around innocent people and give people equality and the right for the pursuit of happiness, uh, this would take hardly any effort on the parts of our money. That's our everything that's happening in this country is ours. That's everything in the budgets is ours. But it takes our voice to say this is what we want to happen. This is how we want it to happen. And to have that kind of compassion for every country. There's not a country that shouldn't be protected, and we can do it. We can all come together and protect one another. And so thank you so much, Miss Underlay. Thank you. Um, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask Miss Boyd a question. Okay. All right. Excuse me. 1 second. Okay. Are you ready, Miss Boyd?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Carlette, in light of the recent shootings in your hometown of a church, what is your reaction to it? And how do you think it affects the community at large, if at all? And what do you think the response will be or should be, please?
When I heard about it, actually, we were in prayer, and it was like we continued to pray because it was very shocking, but it reminded me of something that was said in one of the shows that we've had previously, that if it's not stopped where it's going on in the countries that we're talking about, it's going to be in your backyard. And literally, that's what has happened. A shooting took place at a church that not very far from my home. And my response is that we the same thing we're talking about now. We've got to do something to put things in place, and we can't just talk about it. We've got to be that action, that love that causes these things to stop. These were elderly people, and the people that were shot all died. They all died. They were elderly people just having a potluck dinner, and they were shot. And these things have to stop. We have to put things in place. My reaction and my response is that when this happened, as we talked about Rwanda, we said it was not going to happen again, but yet it did. And these things are continuing to happen, but we can't go on business as usual. If we come in and we bring in people to help when these things happen, then we need to start coming in and bringing in something to prevent them. We got to reach out more to the communities. Like several other people that were interviewed said, it just hit home, but it's been hitting home. These things have been
Yes.
happening. So what are we going to do? It didn't just hit home that night. And it was like, it just reminded me of our shows and that we have to do something. We can't just act. We can't just talk. We have to have some action in place that these things have got to stop. There were so many cars and it was so many first responders on the TV, and they continued to talk about it through the night. But we've got to be proactive. We can't wait till these things happen and then we rush in, which is what has to be done according to protocol. But we as a community, we as a church, we as individuals, we've got to start doing something before these things happen. And we've got to reach out to those in the in the community, because this person had been to the church. He had been to the church before. And so we've got to reach out to people and
That's
see
right.
what's going on with them. We've got to be the help.
Yes. Because we may be saving our own life. It's so important. Do you guys mind? We're almost coming to the hour of closure. And of course, I'm going to ask everybody that we repeat our final show of the series. And you guys can let me know how you feel about that because of our technical challenges. I'm going to a new platform, and last minute we streamed a different way. So I love you guys because I know that you all out there with us, and you are our issues were your issues in a loving way. So thank you for that. And what I'd love to do is to take a 2-minute time for each one of us as we near the hour for your dream. You have a dream. I know you do because I know you. Give me 2 minutes and tell me your dream. Can you do that, Charlotte? Can you call on us for that, please?
Yes. Do you want me to start with me?
Yes, thank you.
I will start with me. My dream is that as I go to church on Sundays, I pass a very big store that has closed down, but there are people that are sleeping outside. And my dream is to get them inside, to open up places where there's food, there's clothing, there's shelter, so no one has to sleep on the street. That's one dream that I have. The other dream is that to unite grandmothers. I didn't know how to be a grandmother because I didn't when I was growing up. I didn't get to meet my grandparents like my older sisters, and didn't get to see that kind of love. So I wanted to be the best grandmother I could be, and I end up sitting in the floor and playing with my children. But I want to be able to help others, other grandmothers, other mothers, to with the teaching that I believe that Bible's teaching, Bible scriptures, teaching them at a young age about the Bible can help to help change some of the things that are going on. So that is my dream, to be able to help others that are outside come inside, and help grandmothers, mothers be able to teach their children about God, because I think that is the answer, or one of the answers. Thank you, Miss Storm.
You're welcome.
Also,
And people, I want you to know, look for Miss Boyd's book that's coming out. Her new book releases in a few weeks, called 7 Grands, Calling All Grandmothers. All right, next there, please.
Miss Labate.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a dream. Let me say it like Martin Luther King. I have a dream. And the dream is big. It's to have a shelter for all the orphans in Amazonia and all the battered women and those who have gone through all the atrocities that we can have, where they can get refuge as well as counseling so they can really be productive and get back with their lives. And also build a hospital as well as start a vocational college where many of the young people will be able to have some training and have productive lives in the community. That's the dream in a nutshell. It's bigger than I can handle, but I need each one of you to be part of that dream.
Yes.
Thank you, Miss
Yes,
Levante.
lovingly. I would love to be. Yes.
Dr. Patience.
Thank you. I have two dreams. One is a personal dream in terms of uh, healthy living, and the other dream is a philanthropic dream. The personal dream in terms of healthy living is to have someday in Amazonia a recreational site where elderly people, like I would be soon, can just go and have fun and dance and stay healthy.
Yes.
That is something that I like to do for fun. And I pray that God gives me a long life to be able to have that dream someday in Amazonia. The more important dream has to do with education. Educating the girl child. If you educate a girl child, you educate a family. This dream of having all our girl children, and I focus on girls because they are the ones that are usually disadvantaged. I hope that there will be universities, schools that are able to empower these girls to have the best education. I think of what Oprah Winfrey has done in South Africa, and it's something like that that I would like to emulate. And so I hope one day that this movement that we are together will make that happen. Thank you so much.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Yes,
That
thank
is,
you.
yes. All right.
And
Okay.
now, Miss
I,
Underlay.
yes.
Okay, yes, I do have I do have a big dream for, my biggest dream is for Amazonia, but I have also my own personal dream. My dream for Amazonia is that we get our independence very, very fast because we want to
Yes.
rebuild Amazonia. We want
Yes.
to
Yes.
build the latest country in Africa, Amazonia. And I know that we are going to take care of all aspects. But my own personal dream is really for the healthcare because a healthy nation is a successful nation. And my dream is to build a children's specialist hospital in the three zones of Amazonia. And I don't even want to wait until the end of the year. I want to start something as soon as possible because even if I don't finish it, I want to put something. I think if we can take care of our children, I always go back to the California Children's Hospital. If we build our hospitals, our children can be treated from all parts of the world. That is the kind of hospital that I'm dreaming of for my people, for the children of Amazonia. And of course, when you are taking care of children from when they are in their mother's womb, then you are also taking care of the mothers, and then you are taking care of the fathers. So if you are taking care of the children, you are taking care of the whole family. That is my
Yes.
Yes,
dream.
ma'am.
My dream is to take care of the children and the people of Amazonia. Healthcare,
Oh my.
number one priority. Thank you.
Oh,
Yes, thank
thank
you. Miss
you.
Storm.
Yes, Lord. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. my dream is to put into effect my 10-point plan. I would just give you just two parts of it. And that is all around the world, starting here in America where I am, that we will have 24-hour emergency child care everywhere. No more latchkey children, nowhere. Nowhere. That this plan would take care of children everywhere, because we can protect our children 24 hours wherever children live. If it's a building that children live in it, then 24-hour child care and monitoring and watching our children is in place. And another part of that 10-point plan is all the poor people who have a heart for people who can't afford these ridiculous prices for university study, that is taken care of, and they can become psychiatry, psychology
Yes.
majors, and then put them out there where the people need them, where they're in the schools, how much they're needed, heavily in the school, everywhere. Put them everywhere. Psychology needs to be everywhere. We've been traumatized as a nation, as a world. We've been traumatized. We need therapy. So yes,
Yes.
that's two of my 2-point plan. And thank you for allowing me to share part of it.
Thank you so much. Thank all of our panelists, and thank you, Ms. Storm. We are now at a minute to the hour, so we'll give you the last say so.
All right, thank you. Yes. Unless our panel has something they want to say right now, you can say that. Otherwise, I will allow Ms. Boyd to give us a quick protection prayer, and we'll close out the show. And I just thank you guys so incredibly much. You are rocket scientists to me. I love you so much, how you guys have looked. You have seen the world, and you know what can be done, and you won't stand for it no more. I love y'all for that. You are my sheroes in the biggest sense of the word. I don't know how to tell you that in a greater way. I will never lose collaboration with you. We will be in this fight together, because I want warriors next to me when I fight. And you guys are that. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you,
All right.
Asia.
Anybody
Thank
have
you.
anything else
Thank
they
you.
want me to say?
Thank you,
No?
Asia. Thank you for fighting for us. Thank you. Amazonia loves you. Thank you very much.
Oh my God. You know that.
And
You
I
know
pray,
what that did inside me, right?
Aisha, it's
Yes,
a prayer
that
that
did.
it's a prayer that this movement goes bigger and bigger, and we mobilize millions and millions of people to make an effective change in Amazonia and the world around. Thank you.
You sent it through me, both of you, because yes, that's exactly what we will do. It's coming because people know that what fills you up better, people, more than you helping somebody, than you protecting somebody, than you loving somebody. That's where we get our stuff from. We get it from loving people. We get it from honoring people, from protecting them. That's where we get that good, yummy feeling from. And that's what we want to give to the world. We want to give them the blessing and the privilege to protect and serve. So thank you all so much. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you. And with that, we'll go on. All right.
Thank you.
Bless you guys. Good night.
Bless. Good night. Father, we just thank you for this time. We thank you, Lord God, for what you've done. We thank you for calling us to be those Gideons, Lord, that not just say anything, but we're called to action. We thank you that the choir has gone out on the airways, and that those that are listening will have a heart change, that they will join us and help us in this war, that peace will come where wars against peace. We thank you for that. We thank you for Psalms 91 protection over us all as we go from this place. And we will always be in your presence. And we thank you for that. And it's in Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
The media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age and not with undaunted ABC Amber News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution on Ambazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Ambazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Ambazonia need to counter the media rage?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Ambazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1984, 1992, Ambazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper